Get ready, hold tight. It's
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
Just what the flipping Nora are you lot doing?
I'm still in there. I'm still right behind him.
It was just a very well thought out tactical plan by Danny.
I want go!
I can literally feel the steam coming out your ears.
So it's like a fun little post-game snack.
The Wednesday Week!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week and our latest matchday preview show. Today I'm joined by Joe from Turfcast, the Burnley FC fan channel, ahead of our trek over this Friday evening to Turf Moor in Lancashire. Over the next 20, 30 minutes or so, I'm going to try and find something to be positive about as we get to look forward to trying to score a goal over at Turf Moor. And this is our episode of Joe. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm feeling a little bit nervous and trepidatious about this Friday, if I'm honest with you. It's been a bit of an up and down season for us. And the thought of going over to Burnley and trying to score a goal, let alone win a game, is something that I'm a little bit apprehensive about, if I'm honest with you.
Outside looking in, like obviously I don't watch Wednesday week in, week out like you do, but it seems like over the course of the season you've got better. Just quickly got the league table up then during the intro, but obviously you're a lot higher up than you were. I remember last time we played, I think you were looking over your shoulders slightly without too much worry about going down, but kind of looking over your shoulders. Now you're looking like you obviously could be getting in the playoffs if you stick a run together. But look, it's difficult to score at Turf Moor for us, not just for you. So I think Burnley fans are a little bit nervous as well, to be fair. Like, it's a must-win for us now. We really need to start winning some games if we're going to finish in the top two and not have to deal with the playoffs at the end of the season.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into it. I'm sure that I'll drop a few bits around Sheffield Wednesday over the course of the show and where we are and how things sit with us. Let's get going then. Talk to me about Burnley coming down from the Premier League last season. That pre-season, what were your expectations going all the way back to the summer? Expectations after relegation? Was there an expectation of promotion? Were fans and the club demanding winning the league? Playoffs have been acceptable. Where did you sit in terms of aspirations for Burnley?
For me personally, I predicted us to finish in the top two. I said Burnley or Leeds would win the league. The other one will finish second. What I wasn't aware of is that the board had plans to pretty much sell half of the squad, or what felt like half of the squad, on the last day of the window. It were an absolutely ridiculous transfer window. We started the season with a squad that I believe would have won the league. The likes of Dara O'Shea, who's gone to Ipswich, Muric, who, to be fair, is not doing very well at Ipswich, but was very good for us last time in the Championship. Vitinho, who went back to Brazil. And we had a lad that went to Spurs whose name suddenly completely escapes me, even though I absolutely loved him. I had no idea how that's happened. Complete brain fart.
It'll come back.
Yeah, he spent a lot of the season injured, and that's probably why. But we had a really, really good squad. Even Wout Weghorst, and I was never his biggest fan. I just remember thinking Wout Weghorst in the Championship, it's definitely going to do it. Zeki Amdouni as well, who's ended up playing Champions League football over in Portugal. So we had a really, really, really good starting 11 and a great squad with a lot of squad depth. And then we just kept selling players. And like, it was frustrating because the transfer window closed, I think, on the 30th of August last year, and we were playing Blackburn on the 31st. And we're all like, "Can you stop selling players? This game, like, it's quite important. Like, they haven't beaten us for like 15 years or whatever. It's like we need to make sure they don't beat us." In the end, they didn't beat us, to be fair, but we did beat them at the Turf. And expectations started changing then, I think. I think a lot of fans were like, well, maybe playoffs will be acceptable. Let's just hope we can get in top two. I still... Promotion is the aim. If we go up through the playoffs, that is the only acceptable outcome. If we finish third and then lose at Wembley, or lose in the playoffs, for example, in the semi-finals, that's not acceptable. If we're in the Premier League next season, I don't care how we went up, then I won't particularly care. If we're in the Championship again next season, I feel like it might be a difficult season for us. It looked like it would be a difficult season for Leeds at first before they got that mad influx of money from Red Bull. We're not going to have that next year. So it will be a case of Burnley having to sell more players to try and not necessarily balance the books as such, but get ready for life, with less income and things like that. I know obviously parachute payments, which we haven't received yet, but we will start getting if we don't go up, would help that. But you still need to obviously start cutting your cloth accordingly. So it's, Premier League is the minimum expectation still, in my opinion. And if we're not in the Premier League next year, then I think it would hopefully be time for, I say hopefully like I want him out already. I don't, but if we don't go up, it probably would be time for a new manager.
It's as if you've read my questions, because that's an incredible segue into the next one. Obviously, you came down and company's moved on. He's gone to Bayern, and you brought in Scott Parker. Listening to you talk about the transfer activity there and the overhaul of the squad. With Parker coming in, what were the initial feelings around the announcement, and how have they changed as the season has gone on?
I think the majority were underwhelmed, and I was definitely underwhelmed. I actually wanted Ruud van Nistelrooy at the time. I know he's not really doing that well at Leicester. I feel like he's gone similar to what James Trafford did. He's gone too high too soon in his manager. He's gone into a job that's too difficult as Van Nistelrooy. I think he'd have done all right in the Championship. Not as good as Company, because that was like a ridiculous season that you'd see like once every 10 years from somebody. Yeah. But I was underwhelmed. But I thought he's here now. We have to back him. And then I actually feel like we've done okay. I do want to obviously see us higher. But when you look at everything I've just mentioned about the rug being pulled from underneath Company in terms of the transfer, underneath Parker in terms of the transfers, I feel like he's done okay. But we're at the stage of the season now where we're starting to fall away from the top two. And it's going to be a case of, if we don't finish in the top two, part of it has to be blamed on Parker, because he's been too defensive. Like, we've drawn a ridiculous amount of games 0-0. I don't know how many it is off the top of my head. It might be 10, it might be 11, it might be 12. Too many. We've drawn like 14, 15 times. And if I think it's 14 times, and if you turn just 4 of them draws or 4 of them 0-0s into 1-0 wins, we're top of the league. But there's been some games where he just makes his subs too late, or he's a little bit too defensive. And I think ultimately, if we don't go up at the end of the season, despite everything that happened with the transfer window, it will be on Scott Parker. And we're at the stage of the season now where we are getting into must-win territory. I've already called this game against you on Friday night a must-win, because obviously Leeds and Sheffield United, apologies for swearing, are playing against each other. So we need to capitalize on that. And them two are just winning every single week, it feels like. And we'll win a couple, then draw a couple, and then they edge away. So yeah, it's at the minute, but the majority of fans are still backing him. There's a vocal minority, but that minority is growing every single year, every single week, as we start to slip a little bit away from that top two every single week.
Do you have somebody, if he was to go, and it's just a sort of a pie in the sky thought, do you have somebody in line who you'd go, right, Parker out, this is who we've wanted?
I haven't personally, because I've not thought about him getting sacked or anything yet. I think that today is the first day I've actually said it out loud about wanting a new manager next season if we don't go up. No. I like that Ralph Wicky, who was at Dortmund. I don't know what he's doing now, but that's probably, like you say, pie in the sky. It's probably far too ambitious. But when I wanted Vincent Kompany, people told me that was far too ambitious. I've not thought of anybody. What I would like is a manager that's a little bit more progressive, a little bit more attack-minded. It's great that we've kept all these clean sheets and we haven't conceded since the 21st of December, whatever it is. It's great, but let's put the ball in the back of the net as well. Like, we've got the second best goal difference in the league. It looks like that's because we're very, very good at going forward. It's not. We're not very good at going forward. It's because we're very good at the back. So yeah, what I would like is a manager that, a bit more progressive and who wants to attack teams and utilize our attacking talent. So I do feel like we've got some good attacking players, but they're kind of getting a little bit restricted.
Listen, I can tell you, I'm going to let you into a secret now. There's a manager in Championship who he's got a bit of pedigree. He's been at Bayern Munich. He's been at Germany. He's worked under Hansi Flick, and he's currently playing his trade at Sheffield Wednesday. The way you describe your philosophy, the thing that you want to see. is exactly what our manager would like to impart.
There is managers in the league that I do want or would want. He would be one of them. Kufientes at QPR. Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Kufientes at QPR, I'd have him. In terms of the Championship, it probably would be Roll, but I would imagine that he's on a big contract, and I can't imagine our board paying that, if I'm honest with you. So if we do not go up and we replace Parker, I don't think you'd have too much to worry about, if I'm honest with you.
I'm going to keep it very quiet and under wraps. We were at risk of losing him around about Christmas time. Southampton came sniffing. It's not the size. It's not necessarily the size of the contract. It's the compensation that people are going to have to pay. But the worry is there is going to be somebody in the next year or so that will want to pay the money that it would cost for him to go and maybe take his backroom staff with him. So that's the big fear for us at the moment. So we're kind of tentatively hoping that we do as well as we can, because if the better off we finish, he's going to be more inclined to want to stay. But we'll see where we go with that. In terms of your formation, your setup, your style of play, then obviously you talk about that inability to score goals. You obviously defend really well. I think you've only conceded 9 all season. Is that right? Something low like that. How can we, as Wednesday fans that might not be familiar with Burnley, how can we expect you to set up on Friday night?
So it'll be a 4-2-3-1, which it's a 4-2-3-1. It's pass it around the back, wait for you guys to press us. This is why we've struggled so much, because we're playing this style and this system that is built to invite teams onto us. But so many teams have come to the turf and just sat in 2 banks of 4 and said, no, you bring the ball onto us. And then they don't start pressing us until we get close to the 18-yard box. And then because you're so compact, there's no space in behind. And then we struggle to get our wide players into the game, and we struggle to get our forwards into the game. And that's why we've drawn so many games 0-0 at home against, with all due respect, lesser opposition, like we drew at home to Blackburn Rovers. They're awful. Preston North End, Stoke City, obviously they're down there battling relegation. Derby County, I think they're in the bottom 3. We've drawn all these games at home because teams just sit in deep and then try and hit us on the counter. To be fair to Blackburn and Preston, if it weren't for just some dodgy offside decisions, they would have both beaten us, because they did exactly that. Sat in deep, tried to counter-attack us. So it'll be a 4-2-3-1, hoping that you come out and press us. If you don't, we'll then try and step onto you. But if you're solid defensively, we've shown this season that we do struggle to break them kinds of teams down.
Right. So that's the glimmer of hope that I was hoping for, wanting to see when we kicked the pod off earlier on. On your defence, it'd be remiss of me not to sort of go through a few stats. And I've just had a quick look at the BBC Sports. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read these to you. Give you an opportunity to just talk to us a little bit for those people that might not be aware of Burnley and the incredible feat, the incredible run that they're on at the moment. 11 clean sheets in a row. You're the first team in the second tier to do that. 9 goals conceded all season. You're the 5th team in history to go 11 games without conceding. The last one were Man United in 2008 and 9. They went on to 14, by the way, which isn't without the realms of possibility for you guys, I think. James Trafford has only faced 21 shots on target in that run. He saved 2 penalties against Sunderland as well. No team have had more than 3 shots on target in any of the games that you've played in this run. However, 6 of the games have finished 0-0. So it's an incredible feat. I know you'll be a little bit sort of disappointed with the lack of killing teams off and the number of 0-0s that are in there, but to go 11 games in this batshit crazy championship is some going, mate. Who would you attribute that to? And the reason I'm asking is it Trafford? Is it a defender? Is it the combination of both? Is it the tactics? What's happened to create this perfect storm?
It is literally just that, a combination of all 3. The tactics are not necessarily clean sheet prioritization, but it's cautiousness. Like, we are a cautious side. Scott Parker is a cautious manager. Trafford's done well. Like I said, he was awful last season in the Premier League, but he's done a full 180 and he's absolutely fantastic now. There's been some games, to be fair, where he could have had his deck chair out, but there's also been games where he's kept us in it. I think I saw a stat somewhere earlier that the XG that he's faced is something like, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know some people don't like the XG. That's why I can't remember it. I'm not a massive fan of it myself. But it's something ridiculous like 37, but we've only conceded 9. So he's obviously doing well there. That might be a bit exaggerated. Apologies, I can't remember the exact number. But also the defence, the 2 central defenders are absolutely magnificent, especially Maxime Esteve. He, in my opinion, apart from the lad at Leeds, he's the best, well, including the lad at Leeds, he's the best defender in the Championship. Them two are on a par with each other, Maxime Esteve and Pascal Struijk at Leeds. The only difference is Struijk actually scores goals, whereas Maxime doesn't. But he's a brilliant defender. CJ Egan-Riley is not at the level of Maxime Esteve yet, but he's a bit younger, I think. And he made a brilliant tackle against one of the Preston lads at the weekend. That Osmajic, won't get into him. Absolute rat. But a brilliant tackle at the weekend, and they've both been good. It's not even the fullbacks; like the fullbacks are good as well. They don't get as much praise, but that's where I bring the cautiousness back into it, because there's so many times where I want Connor Roberts or Bashir Humphreys of 2 fullbacks bombing forward, and they get to the halfway line and they turn back and then they pass it in. And I think that is because that's why the tactics come into it as well, because we are very cautious, and that back line is always there. You don't really see gaps and things moving around like you would with company, like Cullen had come into the centre of defence, for example, if a player went forward. But it's been completely, like you said, a mixture of all of them. So yes, Trafford's done well. Yes, the defenders have done well, but Parker's also set us up to be a very cautious side.
You brought a bit of experience in, didn't you, in January? And we're still a couple of weeks beyond, away from the transfer window. You brought in Shelby and you brought back Ashley Barnes, didn't you? Have they been brought in to, I'm assuming, to just bolster and be squad players rather than team players that are going to come in and threaten for starting positions?
Yeah, Barnes, we love him for obvious reasons. He's a Burnley legend, but he's over the hill. He's older than me, I think. And honestly, there's a twinge in my knee when I walk downstairs. So I don't know how Ashley Barnes is still playing football these days. Shelby, again, he's in his 30s, it's a good age. But he's not going to be starting games week in, week out. We've only really seen him against Southampton in the FA Cup, and I would suspect we'll see him in the next round of the FA Cup as well. But the main one for me is Edwards. But we've not seen enough of him yet. We've seen him come off the bench and make things happen. I'm hoping he starts on Friday and we proper release him against you lot.
Great. Who would you say are your main threats then? You picked out Edwards there. There's obviously a couple of lads that are hitting the headlines, and you'll look at the data and the stats. I'm a big fan of Brownhill. I don't know how much he's revered in Burnley sort of circles, but if we're coming over Friday night, who would we be expecting to be looking out for?
I'm hoping Edwards, but he's not started a game for us yet. Like I said, I want this to be the game now where, because Parker's been bringing him on with like 20 minutes, 30 minutes left, and he's looked lively. He's ran at defences, he's ran at fullback, he's tried to make things happen. Potentially should have had a penalty at the weekend, but to be fair, I think it was a good decision from the referee. But it was making defenders make last-ditch challenges in the box. The defender may have won the ball, I think, in my opinion, but nobody else did that in that game apart from Edwards. And Parker keeps saying, he's not quite fit enough yet. We need to look after him. There's 13 games left with 5 points adrift now of the top 2. I'd rather risk games trying to win and lose them than just playing it safe and getting a 1-1 or a 0-0. We need to start winning games now. These draws aren't enough. So I'm hoping Edwards starts, and I'm hoping he's the main threat. And if he does start, I think he will be the main threat. I think he will, at the first few games he gets into the side, shock a lot of teams because they won't know too much about him in a Burnley shirt, for example. So I'm hoping he's the main threat. Do I think Parker starts him, or do I think he plays it safe? I think he probably plays it safe again. I think it's in his personality, and I think I'm going to start getting frustrated with him if he does. Other than that, Zitton Fleming, he's started doing quite well recently. It took a while to get into his stride, but scored the winning goal at Ewood Park, which is obviously massive for us. So, he's already a Burnley legend in that sense. He scored his first Burnley goal at Turf Moor against Hull. So he's starting to come into it. Had a poor game, to be fair, against Preston in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. But he plays more of a false 9, so you don't see him sort of like as an out-and-out striker. Other than that, obviously, we've not scored too many goals, so there isn't too many threats. So I'm basing it on hope that Edwards might be a threat. And Fleming has done relatively well since coming in, but he's been played out of position as well. Like he's been playing as like a false 9 when he's more of a number 10. He's been playing as like the figurehead, trying to bring the other players in, and it's all a bit square pegs round hole from Scott Parker. But I think them two will be the main two.
Okay, interesting. I want you to look into your crystal ball then. I think we've got maybe 12, 13 games left, there or thereabouts. How do you see the promotion chase finishing up? How do you see the rest of the season playing out for you guys and the teams around you?
You know what? I went on one of them websites where you type in the scores for the rest of the season. And we were third on that. And I was generous. I was generous. I just think maybe now it's a little bit too far, but look, we've still got to play Sheffield United. You've got to play them, and they've still got to play Leeds. And I think they've still got to play Coventry, but to be fair, so do we. We're not out of it. We are not out of it. There's something weird about Sheffield United, and again, I've gone full circle on them, because at the start, and I don't want to talk too much in depth, obviously, about your rivals, but obviously it's the promotion chase that you asked me about.
No,
but I watched them at the start of the season, and I watched them, and I'm like, I'm impressed with these. They're not playing very well, but they're winning games. That's a sign of a good team. They'll get better, and I think they may go on to win the league or go up. Then we beat them at Bramall Lane, and I'm like, these are pretty poor. They didn't lay a glove on us. Then I watched them like a week or so later at home to West Brom, and again, they were poor. And I completely changed my mind on them. I'm like, these are actually rubbish, but somehow they're winning games. Whereas we're playing well and not winning games, and that's the frustration, because they're not doing very well and winning games. So I'm hoping they have a bit of a bad run. Maybe a defeat against you guys will worry me a little bit, and I'm sure you guys will revel in doing that. I think they lose this weekend against Leeds. Leeds have been absolutely fantastic for a while now. So if we win on Friday night, and obviously they get beat against Leeds, the gap's then 2 points. They've still got to come to Turf Moor. You've got to play them yet as well. So it's not done yet. I just think that maybe, just maybe, these draws are going to let us down, and we're going to end up finishing third and have to unfortunately go through the playoffs. But if I had to predict now, a gun to my head, I'd say we finish third. But we're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination, and I wouldn't be surprised if we managed to sneak into that top 2. But one of the things that I realised when I was doing this, that on these websites, is on the last day of the season, they've got Blackburn Rovers at home. There's no way they would beat them if we needed a favour off Blackburn. There's no way, unless of course they needed a win to get into the top 6. But I genuinely think Blackburn will be out of it by then, and they'll be like 9th, and they can't do it, and they'll just put the kids out. So I think that's a worry as well.
I'm like you. I have Leeds and Burnley. I do, and it's not a bias thing. I think United will fall away. I think you'll end up having too much. Suter has ended up going back to Leicester. He was a miss.
Yeah.
I think they've replaced, but I'm not sure they'll replace to the quality that he was. And obviously they've got Brereton Diaz has gone back in there, and they've signed another lad up top. I can't remember. Forgive me, I can't remember who it is.
That Stort lad.
Yes, Cannon. Thank you.
That's him. Yeah.
Who, to be fair, have they signed a player or have they signed a reputation there? I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. He didn't look great against Stoke when we played Stoke, so I'm not too sure that he's the player that's going to get them fired up the league, if I'm honest with you.
I agree with Cannon, and I don't like Diaz as well, but he has scored a couple, I think, now, and again that worries me. Like, they're scoring goals and we're not.
Yeah, but the way you've described them, I can attest to the fact I've got a fair few United mates, and I can attest to the fact that they would say the same. What you'll get with Wilder is a United lad through and through. Is he bleeds, obviously he bleeds red, but he bleeds red and white, and he will drag that team as far up the league as he possibly can without necessarily having. And this is not a disrespectful dig at the bloke. He doesn't necessarily have the qualities that certain other managers in the league have. It's just about being the right person to pull that particular team up. I'm not sure he could do it anywhere else, if I'm honest with you. But that's a story for another pod. In terms of chasing pack, I've got a couple more for you. You said you don't necessarily know too much about us, and you've looked at us. What have you made of us in terms of the progressions from last season to this year?
Well, obviously, I didn't see anything of you last season because we're in the Premier League, so I can't comment on last season. But what I do remember, as I said at the start, is I do think you've got better as the season's gone on. I do. Obviously, I thought that the main priority at the start of the season would have been make sure we stay up, and then maybe a late push for the top half and at very best playoffs. So as I think now, like I said, there's 13 games left. Again, I'll just quickly get the league table up. You're 3 points outside the top 6. You're well within a shout. That everybody keeps losing games in that top 6, as I mentioned already. So I think you should be happy with where your season's gone. I don't know what the general feeling is amongst Wednesday fans, but I feel like you should be happy with the way your season's gone. And I think, like you said earlier, you've got a great manager who's doing a good job to have you, banging on the door of the playoffs. And if he gets you into the playoffs, and even if you fall short in the playoffs, that's an absolutely brilliant season for you guys, I think.
I think that's the level-headed Wednesdayites will say, yeah, you look at where we were when he came in, we were adrift at the bottom of the league. He's managed to get us safe from relegation. We felt it. We by the time we got to that point where there was half a chance, we didn't think that we were necessarily going to go down, even though it was only confirmed on the last day of the season. And to see the progression that we've made under him, the big worry is for us is that will he be here to see it the next phase, which will be, if we can consolidate this year and finish mid-table, logically, that's a reasonable season for us. But with the manager that we've got, can we push as far as we can to try and retain him so we can keep going? Because, it's every Wednesday fan's nightmare at the moment that we get to the end of the season. And because things have been quite fractious between him and the chairman, he decides that he's destined for bigger and better things sooner than we'd like him to go, if I'm honest with you. If you ask Wednesday fans, will you let Danny, would you be happy with him going in 2-3 years' time? We're realists. Consolidate, get us solidified, get us steady. If he can get us into the Premier League, we'd wish him well, and see him on his way to bigger and better things, which will happen in the next sort of 3-4 years. But I just don't want it to be the end of this season and next. So we'll see where we go with that. Right, I'm going to ask you a question that I've not asked before on our pod. I'm going to try and make it a staple thing with the lads as well. So we'll try and get it for other people. Match day recommendations. Have you got a hack, a hint, a tip, something for travelling away supporters, whether that be a pub to go to, any cheeky parking spots or anything like that? Any recommendations for us?
For parking, I feel like the best thing that you can do as an away fan, and I feel like it's common knowledge for away teams that come to the turf, but obviously, when was the last time you came to turf, Mo? It'd be quite a few years ago, wouldn't it?
Couple of years,
yeah. Go to the cricket club. It's right next to the ground, Burnley Cricket Club. They regular tweet it, and I think they tagged you guys in a tweet earlier, actually, or they tagged a few Wednesday pods. If they've not tagged you guys, they've gone wrong. They should have definitely tagged you guys, but I think they did.
We're award-winning, for God's sake.
Exactly. Don't mention that again, by the way, because I finished second for those that don't know. But go to Burnley Cricket Club. There's parking spaces behind. I think away fans can park. Away fans can definitely drink there. It's for away fans. You won't see many home fans in there. You do see some because they allow fans to mingle. But my main hack would be Burnley Cricket Club. It'll be a Wednesday. They let you hang Wednesday flags out or whatever. I've walked past it a few times. I've seen like Man United flags on it. Aberdeen when we played them in the Europa League, where they absolutely took over the town. Get to Burnley Cricket Club, and I'm pretty certain you can park there. And if you can't park there, Turf Moor's in a residential area, and it's not permit only like it is in big cities. So there's loads of streets around the turf where you can just park. To be honest with you,
sound brilliant. Cheers for that. Okay, last one. Give us a score prediction Friday night.
2-0. I just think ultimately we have to win. So I think we're going to come at you. I think we are going to risk. Burnley fans, as much as everybody, including like yourself, you've just spoken to me about this amazing run of clean sheets. Like I've had requests off CNN, Sky Sports, all these other places to talk to me about this clean sheet run. We're fed up of it. Like honestly, some of us won't mind if we concede, because it might make us come out and start attacking teams and then stop thinking about this clean sheet run. Because I do think sometimes we're a little bit too cautious because that's in the back of our mind. But now we've broken the record. Trafford's got the record. We've got the record. I'm not asked about getting to 14. We've done it for the second tier. Let's finish second. If we finish third and we've not conceded again for the rest of the season, it won't matter. Like it genuinely won't matter. Like we'll never think of it again as Burnley fans. We might sometimes see it written down on a plaque in the turf. But we need to finish in the top two. And I just feel like we will go at you. And I'm hoping Parker is a little bit more adventurous, starts players that he should be starting, and tries to go at you guys. And ultimately, I just think similar to what happened at Hillsborough earlier in the season. I thought the game itself was actually quite even, but just because we had the better players, we took our chances, whereas you didn't. And I think ultimately, hopefully, it comes down to something like that as well. But yeah, another 2-0. I'd take that, obviously.
It breaks my heart to say, but I can't disagree. I think the way you've just described it at the end there, I think the difference will be, I think it'll be a good game to watch. I think we'll come in and we'll try and play football. I just think your quality will be a little bit too much for us, and I can see you getting a goal, and then we'll get a run within the game to maybe push. I don't see us scoring necessarily, and I think you can hit us on the break second half. And I do think it'll probably finish 2-0 to you guys, but I'm hoping that I'm wrong. We've got a striker in EK Ugbo that's not scored since Christmas last year, it feels like. So the banter at the minute is a lad who's not scored in 29 odd games, and you guys that ain't conceded. It's absolutely nailed on that he sticks on it bottom corner on Friday night.
Yeah, and you win 1-0, and we've not lost at home all season. Yeah, there you go. 20 games unbeaten run as well.
Yeah, I won't be against that, but I'm wishful thinking, I think. But we'll see. Joe, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the pod. Before we go, do you want to give us your channels a bit of a push? Where can we find you if people want to look at anything Burnley?
Yeah, so you can see the runners-up of the best club content creator over at Turfcast. Just search Turfcast on YouTube. We are YouTube first, but we do podcasts as well. So if you want to listen to a podcast while you're driving to work, for example, that option is there. We're obviously on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media as well. Just search for Turfcast and you'll find us.
Brilliant. And for those regulars that are watching us on YouTube, you'll see down the bottom of the screen all our links to all the social medias. It's been brilliant having you on again, Joe. And good luck on Friday night.
Yeah, cheers. You too.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week. Bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there for podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your